I was also hoping that if he was injured, maybe hearing my voice would somehow help him hang on. And it rang and it rang and it went to voicemail. I just felt like I knew then and there, but we wouldn't actually learn the truth until 12 hours later. It was an ordinary Monday. I think that's important to note because tragedy, when it strikes, it just comes in the strangest form. It's like a normal day and then everything changes in a matter of seconds and life splits between a before and after. I was at work at the radio station and I was on the air, 6 months pregnant. I was just entering my third trimester and I saw my phone light up. I thought that was kind of strange because my mom knew that I was live on the air, so she knew to not call me during that time. I just shoved my phone out of the way and kept talking. And then she called again. We happened to be on a break. So I quickly answered and I said, I was a little bit frustrated. I was like, Mom, like,
Yeah.
I can't talk right now. And she said, Ari, please don't freak out. And my heart just dropped into my stomach, confirmation that something was wrong. And she said, there's an active shooter at King Soopers. My first thought, because she was speaking so timidly, was that she was in the store. As someone who has grown up with this American tragedy, I was 9 years old when the mass shooting at Columbine High School happened. And that was just the start of so many. I had actually thought about what would I do if I got a phone call like this before. So I'm on the phone with my mom and I start to think about the final words she may ever hear, the final words I may ever be able to tell her. And I started to say, I love you so much, Mom. And she was like, oh, honey, no, I'm not in the store. At that point, I get up from my desk and I went outside and I'm like, oh, I'm like breathing out. But then I start to think about, well, who is in this store? This is my community store, 5 minutes from the house I grew up in. I know people who work there. And she started to tell me about all the alerts that everyone in the neighborhood was getting to shelter in place. And then finally, and I think she was just so nervous to tell me, and this is why she didn't tell me right off the bat, she said, Dad went grocery shopping. At that point, I just wanted to fall to my knees. I felt physical pain in my belly being pregnant and was immediately worried about her and of course my dad. I just remember kind of screeching into the phone, have you called him? And she said he's not answering. That's where life just pauses. I remember kind of like turning back and seeing my co-host like ushering me back in because she has no idea what's going on. She's like, where are you? We are doing a show.
Hello. Yeah.
And I had to go back in and I went back on the air and I think I just turned into a robot. And then immediately, like I tell everyone what was going on. I remember I walked down the stairs and I sat on the cement steps leading up to the office building. It was the pandemic. And so nobody's around. I went on to Boulder Police's like Twitter account because being a journalist, I'm trying to understand what's going on, trying to get information. And I saw like active shooter, PIO, which stands for Public Information Officer en route. I commented on that post saying like, did everyone make it out okay? Which is now frozen in time. Everything unraveled from that point on. I just remember crying. I remember calling my reporter colleagues in Colorado, trying to figure out what was going on. I really wanted to call my dad, but I was so worried that if he was hiding in the store, that his ringtone would go off and the shooter would come towards him. So I didn't want to do that. Then I saw something on Twitter that was like, scene cleared. And I thought that's not good because why haven't we heard from Dad at this point? I decided I'm going to try to call my dad. And I was just praying, like, please answer. I was also hoping that if he was injured, maybe hearing my voice would somehow help him hang on. And it rang and it rang and it went to voicemail. And I just felt like I knew then and there, but we wouldn't actually learn the truth until 12 hours later.